I'll be happy enough for both of us, said my sister, who stole John from me. She sent me an invitation to her wedding with John, trying to show off. But Mom and I will go, I said. We'll make it a real spectacle. Normally, my parents are kind and rarely get angry, but they've had enough of my sister's bad behavior. So we went to the wedding with a fierce smile. The ceremony turned into a nightmare, not a celebration. My name is Hannah Turner. I'm 24 years old and work as an illustrator. I'm newly married, not even a year into marriage, and my relationship with my husband, John, is strong. We met through a friend and started dating quickly. He proposed at a restaurant with a beautiful night view. Our wedding was blessed by family and friends, a ceremony filled with smiles. One day, as I was about to send John off to work, I noticed he left his smartphone in the living room. I brought it to him. John, you forgot your phone, I said, handing it over. He took it, looking a bit panicked. Thanks, that really helps. See you later, he said. As he rushed out, I felt something was off about his haste. That was the beginning. After that, John started carrying his smartphone with him at all times, even at home. I felt suspicious, but I couldn't believe John would cheat, right? We had been getting along well without any major issues, so I reassured myself that everything would be fine. However, my trust was soon shattered. After finishing hanging the laundry, I returned to the living room and noticed a notification on my phone. It was an email from an unknown account. Hey, long time no see. How have you been? It seemed like someone I knew, but I had heard of scams pretending to be acquaintances, so I decided to ignore it. If it was important, they'd call, I thought. Hey, don't ignore me. I can see you've read it. Ignoring your sister. That's just like you. Always so mean. The moment I closed my phone, it rang again, and the message was from the same unknown account, calling me sister. Indeed, I have a sister named Sally, but she's a troublemaker in many ways, such as financial issues. Sally often borrowed money from friends for various reasons and then cut off contact without repaying them, leading to my parents and me frequently facing the backlash. However, because she was their daughter, my parents ended up repaying her debts. Then there were complaint issues. Sally would immediately lodge complaints over the smallest inconveniences. Her manner of complaining was terrible. She would hurl abuse and even force those who came to apologize to kneel, making her an extremely problematic customer. And then there were issues with men. Sally loves men, especially those who are already taken. She didn't care if it was a friend or a family member. If she set her sights on a man, she'd pursue him. This caused friction with friends, and the fallout often landed on my parents and my doorstep. Because of her behavior, I wanted nothing to do with Sally, and we had been out of touch since she left home. But seeing the word sister in the smartphone message gave me a bad feeling, and I hesitated to reply. Whether it was Sally or some imposter claiming to be her, I wanted no part of it. However, my phone kept pinging annoyingly until I decided to open it to block the sender. What I found was shocking. Ignore me all you want, but John is mine now. So hurry up and divorce him, okay? Thanks for finding such a great catch, Fernie. For today, John won't be returning to you, so I'll send over the divorce papers. Make sure to file them quickly. The message read, accompanied by a photo of John and Sally together. I didn't need confirmation to know it was true. My hands trembled as I sat down, overwhelmed by shock to the point of feeling faint. Following Sally's words, John never returned home, and all I received were the fill-out divorce papers. Attempts to contact John were met with complete silence. Suddenly stripped of my happiness, I was overwhelmed with sadness and anger, becoming emotionally unstable. Why, John? I spent days in tears. After a few days of calming down, I decided to contact Sally. What's your intention? Let me talk to John. You've been ignoring me all this time, and now you contact me without even a hello or apology. What's your intention? Excuse me, you're the one who should be apologizing. Just send John back here for now. No way, he doesn't want to come back. He says he loves me far more than he ever loved you. And why should I apologize? It's your fault for not being able to keep him. No matter what I said, it just didn't get through to her. I was already in a terrible mental state, too tired to worry or think anymore. I finally realized it was hopeless. Clinging on would only make me more disliked. You know, if you're going to resent someone, resent your own lack of charm. Loser, Sally taunted. After this exchange, I closed my phone. I was done dealing with Sally and had lost all affection for John, who had chosen her. Before I knew it, I had signed the divorce papers, and just like that, my once happy marriage came to an end. My life became a mess after that. Perhaps due to the severe mental stress, I struggled to eat, feeling more exhausted than usual. I looked so haggard that my coworkers were worried, and though I tried to assure them with a smile, it seemed my body and mind were reaching their limits. Eventually, I collapsed at work. Waking up in the emergency room, I found my parents and a close coworker by my side. "Hannah, can you recognize me?" Hearing their voices brought me back to full consciousness, and I looked around. I realized I was in a hospital, recalling my last memory. "Oh, I collapsed, didn't I?" My dad let out a sigh of relief. "We were shocked when the hospital called. Aren't you overworking yourself?" he suggested, but I knew the real reason. It was the stress from John and Sally. "Ah, maybe," I muttered. My mom quickly pressed the nurse call button to summon a doctor. After being examined, they decided to keep me in the hospital for observation. "Are you eating properly? Getting enough rest?" My dad bombarded me with questions, worried, while I assured him I was okay. My mom asked him to buy some drinks and anything I might be able to eat. He agreed and left the room. "Hey, Hannah, something's up, isn't it?" my coworker said. "I thought so too. You've looked worn out lately, and this has never happened before." Women are said to have keen intuition, and it seemed to be true. I sighed and told them both about everything that had happened. I found myself crying in the middle of explaining, realizing I had reached my limit without even knowing it. I thought I was okay with it all, but turns out I really didn't understand myself. As I forced a laugh, my mom squeezed my hand tightly. "I had no idea all this was happening. Why didn't you tell us sooner? It's the first I've heard about the divorce," my dad said. "Sorry to say this in front of you, Mom, but is Sally out of her mind?" I can't believe it. Both of them showed their anger towards Sally, and I could feel they were genuinely worried about me. I didn't want to worry anyone or make a big deal out of it. I thought I could handle it on my own. I felt embarrassed about the situation, and part of me believed Sally might be right, that maybe my lack of appeal caused all this. "That's nonsense. What are you talking about?" my mom said. "Anyone can see that Sally and your ex are the unbelievable ones. You did nothing wrong. To think you were suffering all alone." Both of them looked like they were about to cry. I regretted not leaning on those around me more. My mom suggested I come back home for a while, considering my mental and physical state. After the doctor also recommended rest, Natalie took care of the paperwork at work with my medical certificate. When my dad returned with drinks and heard I was resting at home, he immediately agreed that I should take the time off. Natalie explained everything to my work, and HR told me I'd had plenty of paid time off saved up, so I should take the time to rest. After thanking Natalie, she told me she'd do whatever she could, and that I should lean on her anytime. Over the next few days, I stayed at my parents' house. Natalie occasionally visited, and I could tell my mind and body were gradually recovering. I realized that bottling things up really isn't good. Today, Natalie visited again, and as we were enjoying cake prepared by my mom, my phone rang. Curious, I opened it, and my heart raced. It was a message from Sally. "Hey there, how are you doing? Thought you might be wondering about us, so I decided to reach out." Sally, who I hadn't spoken to since the fallout. I regretted letting my guard down and checking my phone. Natalie noticed the change in my expression. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm fine," I replied, but it was clear something was off. Natalie asked if she could see my phone. I didn't want to worry her, but I had just realized that bottling things up wasn't good, so I nodded and handed her my phone. Natalie looked puzzled as she read the message. "What's this? Is she picking a fight? This is Sally, right?" I nodded in response, and Natalie closed the phone. "Just ignore it. Actually, let's block her. There's no point in dealing with someone like this." I agreed and opened my phone to block Sally. Just then, another message from Sally came in. "We've been living together smoothly since then, and guess what? I'm pregnant." You might be thinking already, but nope. John and I started our relationship 6 months ago. The word pregnant made time stop for me. We had been trying to conceive during our marriage, hoping to be blessed with a baby soon. This message cut me deep. Tears started flowing, and Natalie, seeing me cry, took the phone from my hand. After reading the message, she yelled, "What? I can't believe this. I'm so mad I could explode." "We should sue them," Natalie said. Suing was something I had considered when I first received the message, but now I didn't have the energy or will to pursue it. "I just don't want to deal with this anymore," I muttered, and Natalie calmed down. "Sorry, I got too emotional. You're right, it's best not to get involved." Natalie's comforting back rub felt so kind, and I cried a bit more. Then my mom came into the living room after seeing what happened. "Hey, Hannah, actually, I haven't told Dad about this yet." I understood what that meant. I knew this would infuriate my dad, but I also thought it was time we told him. My mom's solemn words struck me deeply. I took a moment to think and realized she was right. this is just too much, I concluded. Natalie's words had convinced me too, so I decided to let my mom talk to him. My mom said she would handle it, so I decided to leave it to her. After Natalie went home and it got dark, I tried to find some comfort in the quiet of the evening. When my dad returned from work, he said, "Wow, it smells good in here today too. What's for dinner?" "Dad, welcome home," I replied. According to Mom, Dad had been in a better mood since I came back home. He's usually not one to be in a bad mood, but he seemed happy every day. Mom told me how glad she was that I was back, and those words genuinely made me happy. I felt grateful to have a place where I felt at peace. However, today Mom had a serious look on her face as she started a conversation with Dad. "Welcome home, Dad. I usually love to chat about the usual fun stuff, but there's something important we need to discuss." Seeing Mom's expression, Dad seemed to understand and turned serious too. Looking at me, he said, "It's about you, isn't it? Let's hear it." His face was kind, and just looking at him almost made me cry. After explaining everything to Dad, his expression was calm but carried an air of anger, almost frightening. "I see. Hannah, for now, don't block her yet. You don't have to read the messages, but wait on blocking her," Dad advised. I nodded, understanding he must have his reasons. Mom tends to accept Dad's opinions in situations like this. "For now, Hannah, don't block Sally. If she contacts you, just don't read it. It might be good to let Natalie know too." "Understood. Thanks for telling us," I said. "I'm okay. You've got your dad and Mom here for you, and Natalie too." Dad and Mom's kind words and smiles made me so happy that I ended up crying with relief. Seeing this, both my parents laughed. My heart felt incredibly warm. That night, I told Natalie about everything. She said, "It's great you have such supportive parents, and you've got me too." I looked up at the night sky, truly feeling it. After further discussions, I decided to move back home. Moving meant returning to my parents' house since the office was within commuting distance from there. Natalie suggested it might be better for my mental health than staying in a house filled with bad memories. I took care of canceling the rental contract, sent John's belongings to his parents' house, then handled the mail forwarding at the post office. On the day of the move, I said goodbye to the landlord with a smile, leaving on good terms. I started living at my parents' house again and successfully returned to work. My colleagues were very worried, but I could now answer them with a genuine smile, saying I was okay. My boss also told me not to overdo it, making me realize the importance of taking care of myself. A few months later, I came home and my mom greeted me with a serious face. "Welcome back, Hannah. There's something we need to talk about. Come to the living room as soon as you've changed." "Oh, okay. Understood," I replied, sensing something was up from my mom's serious expression. I changed into my casual clothes and went to the living room where my parents were sitting with puzzled looks over a letter. I hesitantly took the seat in front of them and saw the letter placed before me, an invitation. I muttered. "Yes," Dad said. It appeared to be a wedding invitation, but what could be the problem with it? "Can I see it?" I asked. "Yes, you can," Dad replied. I took the invitation in my hand and saw that it was from Sally and John. "What?" I said, my voice escaping in shock. "You filed a forwarding address because you moved, right?" "That's right," Mom confirmed. No wonder their faces looked grim. Surprisingly, I felt calm. If this had happened before, I would have definitely been shocked, but now I just felt disdain. "Are you okay?" Mom asked, concerned. Dad was also looking at me, worried. "Somehow, I'm much better than I thought I'd be seeing this," I said. "I can only feel disdain. I do wonder how far they want to demean me. Even if she's my daughter, this is beyond what I can tolerate." I was relieved that Hannah wasn't as shocked as we feared, but still, this was going too far. I could see the anger burning in my parents' eyes. I was grateful for their support and anger on my behalf. "It's addressed to me, so I don't have to go, right?" I asked. My parents looked at me seriously. "Mom and I will go," Dad said. "We'll show them what hell looks like." Seeing my usually gentle parents this angry was new and made me uneasy. "But it's addressed to me." "Well, we're the parents of the bride. It would be rude not to attend," Mom said. "We're looking forward to it." "Really?" I asked, feeling a mix of apprehension and gratitude. Mom and Dad exchanged smiles. I could only manage a weak smile in return. When I told Natalie, she wasn't surprised at all. "Aren't your parents right? If you're related to the bride and groom, you have to attend." "But wow, a wedding, huh?" Natalie said with a smirk I could sense even over the phone. "Everyone around me is strong, but they're also intimidating when they're angry." On the wedding day, I asked anxiously, "Are you really going? Are you sure?" "Why worry? "There's nothing to be concerned about," Mom said with a smile, though her eyes didn't match. Dad's reaction was similar. He dismissed my concerns as they continued their preparations. I hoped they were right and ignored my worries. As I heard the sound of a car arriving, I went to check if they had called a taxi. To my surprise, it was Natalie's car. She stepped out, dressed in a glamorous party dress. "Natalie, what are you doing here?" I asked, shocked. "Good morning. Are Mom and Dad ready?" "Not yet," Natalie replied, "but I'm attending the wedding too." I was stunned. When my parents came out, I asked them what was going on. They explained that one of John's relatives is a friend of Natalie's, and after learning about the situation, Natalie was invited to attend as his relative's girlfriend. My parents didn't object and seemed eager to go together. "I can't just stay quiet after what happened to Hannah," Natalie said. Though I was anxious, I agreed to let them go. My parents and Natalie left for the venue in the same car. I felt tempted to go too, but Natalie suggested, "If you want to see, I can show you through a video call." I decided to stay home and rely on them. Curiosity got the better of me, so I contacted Natalie for a video call. Upon arriving at the venue, my parents and Natalie went to the reception. Natalie was listed thanks to John's relatives' arrangement, but my parents weren't on the guest list since they weren't officially invited. The receptionist went to confirm their names, and then Sally appeared. Sally was visibly surprised and confused to see my parents. "Why are you here?" she asked. "We're the parents of the bride. It's natural for us to come," Dad replied. "There must have been a mistake. We didn't receive an invitation." Sally forced a smile. The invitation was meant for Hannah." "Yes, we were surprised when Hannah told us. We had no idea about the wedding since Hannah couldn't make it today because of work. We came instead. Sending an invitation to Hannah is fine, but you should have sent one to us too. It wouldn't look right without the bride's parents," Dad said, mentioning the lack of invitation twice. Though I couldn't see my parents' expressions through the video call Natalie was sharing, I could imagine their stern faces. Sally seemed genuinely convinced that my parents had come to celebrate her, which only showed how delusional she was. As John appeared, his face turned pale at the sight of my parents. Sally, in her delusion, tried to reassure John. "Relax, John. They came to celebrate with us. They must really love me, especially since Hannah is like that." John managed a forced smile as he greeted my parents, who were joined by John's parents. The atmosphere became friendly and warm, and I couldn't help but recall the fondness John's parents had shown me when I was married to their son. It stung a bit to think they might have only been nice because I was John's wife. This made me think it might have been the right decision not to attend. I murmured this thought to myself as the scene shifted to the ceremony and then to the reception. At the reception, Sally and John made their happy entrance. Natalie checked in on me occasionally to make sure I was okay, and I assured her I was fine. I was more concerned about my phone's battery, but Natalie had come prepared with a portable charger. As the time came for the letter of gratitude to the parents, Sally started to panic, clearly not expecting her own parents to be there. My parents took this opportunity to make a surprise announcement. They asked the MC for the microphone. "Today, we weren't actually supposed to come, so it's understandable that Sally wasn't prepared. As a surprise from us, we'd like to convey a message to our daughter, Sally," Dad said with a smile. The venue erupted in applause, and Sally, seemingly relieved by the apparent save, smirked and clapped exaggeratedly. My irritation grew with her display of gratitude. Then Dad did something unexpected. With a smile, he announced, "Our surprise for you is this." And suddenly, the doors of the reception hall opened. Several men, all looking outraged, entered the hall. Sally turned pale at the sight of them. I watched the scene unfold with growing curiosity, wondering what was about to happen next. The scene at the wedding reception took an unexpected and dramatic turn. My dad continued with a flourish. "Sally is so charming that she has received affection from many men. The kind Sally has responded to all these feelings, making her our pride and joy. And today, these gentlemen wanted to give us a prize, so we brought them here." Dad's announcement set the stage for what was about to unfold. The men stormed the stage, expressing their anger and confronting Sally with a barrage of accusations. The atmosphere became tense as they questioned her about how much she had cost them, demanding repayment for money she had borrowed and expressing frustration over the relationships she had damaged. Sally's face turned pale as she was nearly in tears, unable to handle the onslaught of accusations. The scene was chaotic, and I could see Natalie's reaction through the video call, murmuring, "Wow," clearly stunned by the turn of events. John, bewildered by the commotion, tried to make sense of what was happening but found Sally too flustered and shocked to respond effectively. In the midst of this chaos, my mom took the microphone. Actually, there's one more surprise, Mom began. As my husband mentioned earlier, our daughter Sally is very charming, so much so that she's also popular among women. At this, several women in the audience stood up. They were part of the crowd my parents had invited, those who had expressed a desire to meet Sally. The situation turned even more intense as these women approached Sally, accusing her of various grievances. "How dare you steal my man and then try to be happy yourself?" one woman shouted. "Pay me the alimony for cheating with my husband," another demanded. "You cut off contact as soon as I lent you money. Pay me back," yet another woman yelled. The reception hall quickly transformed from a buzzing celebration to a chaotic and hostile environment. The other guests looked on, their expressions a mix of shock and disgust. It was clear that the spectacle was both dramatic and disturbing. Throughout this pandemonium, my parents maintained their composure, smiling through the chaos. Their actions made me realize the extent of their anger and determination to confront the situation head-on. The scene was a testament to their support for me and their desire to hold Sally accountable for her actions. As I watched this unfold from home, I felt a mixture of relief and unease. Relief because I wasn't there to face the confrontation directly, and unease at the sheer intensity of the public spectacle my parents had orchestrated. It was clear that this was a far-reaching fallout from Sally's actions and that her behavior had sparked deep repercussions. The chaos at the reception escalated as my former mother-in-law took the microphone, her voice ringing out amid the tumult. "To have such an attractive person as our son's bride is truly heartwarming," she began, catching everyone's attention. The statement was unexpected and left me confused, but the next words were even more shocking. "It might not compare to the wonderful surprise prepared by Sally's parents," she continued, "but we also have a surprise for you." John, visibly shocked, tried to intervene. "What are you talking about, Mom? Can't you see what's happening?" Ignoring John's attempts to calm the situation, my former father-in-law took the microphone next. "First, we'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Sally's parents for such an appropriate surprise," he said. "Actually, I run a business, and we decided to remove John from his successor position. This is our surprise for you." The announcement left Sally and John astonished. I had heard that John was being groomed as a successor in his father's business, but hearing that he was being removed from that position was shocking. My former father-in-law's words were clear. "What are you saying, Dad? You made your own choices, cheated by your own will, divorced by your own will, and remarried by your own will," he continued. "Someone who can make such commendable decisions should start their own business rather than take over mine." John's eyes widened in panic, realizing the gravity of the situation. His father added, "Don't decide on your own. You said I was the successor. You've already shown you're splendidly independent. Use that judgment to live your life from now on, together with the wonderful Sally." The message was clear. John's actions had consequences, and his father's decision to strip him of the successor position was a direct result of his choices. The scene was a dramatic turn of events that added another layer of intensity to the already chaotic reception. The crowd's reaction was a mix of shock and murmurs, and Sally looked increasingly uncomfortable. The spectacle was becoming a poignant reflection of the fallout from the choices John and Sally had made, and it was clear that the consequences were far-reaching. I was so amazed I couldn't believe my eyes. My former in-laws looked like they were laughing, but their eyes showed they were really angry, not happy like my parents. Natalie was chuckling and said, "They got what they deserved." I was trying hard not to laugh and was just speechless. Natalie then explained what had happened while I was gone. My former in-laws had come to apologize because they really thought of me like their own daughter. They had teamed up with my parents to pull off this surprise revenge. Natalie had been talking to my parents and also heard the story from John's relatives, so she knew everything. Hearing this made me emotional. I realized I had so many people who supported me and cared about me. It made me cry, and I couldn't talk properly. All I could do was nod and say thank you when I finally managed to. I saw my parents and former in-laws smiling warmly at me through the screen. Meanwhile, at the event, things were still chaotic with the staff trying to handle the mess. Then a man stood up and walked towards the stage. He stood in front of John, who then collapsed to his knees after hearing something from the man. Afterward, the man went back to his seat. "Hey, what did that man say?" I asked, trying to hear from where I was. "I can't really tell from here unless he uses a mic." "Maybe I should go ask him directly," Natalie said, heading towards the man with her phone. "Excuse me," Natalie said as she approached. The man turned around, and I was surprised to see it was my uncle, my dad's brother. Natalie showed him the screen with my image, and he looked surprised and very happy. Hannah, are you okay? I heard about today from your dad. It must have been tough. Thanks for asking, but I'm fine. By the way, what did you say to John just now? Oh, I told him that this hotel is run by me and I'll be claiming damages because the reception hall is a mess due to the bride and groom, my uncle replied. When Natalie and I heard that, we understood why John looked so pale after talking to my uncle. After a brief chat with my uncle, I felt encouraged again, though it was hard to see Sally through the camera because of the crowd around her. This wedding had turned into a complete disaster. Many guests had started leaving, including some of John's colleagues who looked puzzled as they left. I thought to myself, well, that makes sense. Feeling somewhat relieved, I saw the wedding end with Sally and John looking pale and exhausted. The MC announced the bride and groom's exit, but by then, almost everyone had already left. Only our parents, former in-laws, Natalie, and some of John's relatives were clapping. When my parents came home, I went out to greet them, and to my surprise, Natalie and John's parents were with them. I was a bit shocked but bowed to my former in-laws. I'm sorry for not being in touch. I regret that our marriage ended this way despite your kindness. I had been feeling guilty for not apologizing to my former in-laws after the divorce, so I took this opportunity. With tears in their eyes, my former in-laws placed their hands on my shoulders. We should be the ones apologizing, they said, but I insisted it wasn't necessary and thanked them for their support during the marriage. After that, we had tea together, chatted happily, thanked each other for the wedding events, and parted on good terms. I felt like I finally had closure and felt refreshed. A few days later, while I was at work, my phone rang with a message from Sally. I had forgotten to block her and the message was full of complaints. It's your fault our wedding was ruined. Take responsibility. You told our parents, didn't you? You're so jealous. Don't project your unhappiness on me, pathetic loser. I thought for a moment and then asked Natalie, who was at the next desk, can I still claim alimony for the affair? Natalie replied, easy, she's been sending enough evidence herself. Feeling completely over it, I decided to hire a lawyer to claim alimony. I saved all the messages and images Sally had sent and replied to her, thanks for all the evidence of the affair. The lawyer will be in touch, so please stop contacting me directly. Sally responded with panic. A lawyer? What are you thinking? Stop it. She started deleting her messages and images. After I told her that all evidence was saved, she began apologizing profusely, saying, sorry, it was all lies. I'll give Jayan back since he's no longer going to be the CEO, and I won't say anything terrible anymore. Please spare me the alimony. I already have debts as it is. I replied, that's none of my concern. I don't want Jayan and do whatever you like. Actually, it might be good that you took him. I don't need a man who cheats. In the end, you protected me. Thanks, sis. After sending that, I blocked Sally and cut off contact. She tried to reach out from different accounts, but I blocked those too. I consulted with the lawyer I had been referred to and submitted all the evidence. The lawyer acted quickly. Next, I started receiving creepy messages from John, like a desperate Romeo, which I ignored and also blocked. My parents handled it when he tried to contact the house, and he stopped reaching out after that. Later, the lawyer informed me that John and Sally had agreed to pay the alimony. They tried to fight it with Sally's usual complaints that didn't work with a lawyer. Realizing they had no chance, they accepted defeat. John, who was initially resistant, turned pale and gave in after learning Sally had sent me plenty of evidence. Despite the bitter feelings from dealing with such childish behavior, it was a relief to have it all settled. I'm really grateful for all the people who protected me. Sally and John eventually divorced. After that, Sally, with no one to turn to, called our house once, but my parents told her to stay away. She ended the call crying. John didn't like the rumors about the wedding at work, so he quit his job and couldn't go back home. Now, he's getting by with part-time work. As for me, I got promoted at work because of my good performance. I also started a new relationship with someone from my new department. Looking forward, Natalie has also found someone she likes, one of John's relatives, and we often talk about our relationships. Next month, to celebrate, my parents, Natalie, and even my former in-laws are planning a trip to a hot springs together. After going through such a tough time, I feel happier than I did before.